Warning: this video contains super awesome content not suitable for people who don't enjoy super awesomeness.
Now there's two things everyone finds difficult to do when it comes to the wet-on-wet technique. The first thing is learning how to make the paint break from your knife for the snowy highlights on your mountains. And the second thing is explaining to your friends and family why you watch this channel. Alright, hello and how the hell are you guys? Welcome to the Greasy Paint channel, and as promised, I bring to you the long-awaited mountain tutorial.
Finally!
And since it is the holiday season, consider this lesson my gift to you guys. Aww. Hey, maybe you want to paint a nice snowy landscape for the winter and have a nice big mountain in there, and that's great because today we're going to be going over 3 different ways on how to paint mountains using the wet-on-wet technique. Now, one of the ways is definitely going to be with the No. 10 Palette knife. You've seen this, very familiar, and I use it all the time. And one of the things that everybody who's ever tried wet-on-wet painting finds very difficult to do, like I said, is getting that paint to break off this knife and just making all those detailed little breaks and the highlights on mountains. I know it seems crazy and a little difficult, but I promise you, once you get it down, you should know how to do it forever. It'll still take some practice, but I think in this video, you'll learn something.
You're gonna learn today.
And we'll definitely go over everything between how to hold the knife properly, how to load the paint on, and how to hold the knife gentle enough to make it glide across the canvas.
Whoop-de-doo!
So maybe you were bad this year and Santa's not going to plan on getting you this No. 10 palette knife. Well, if you have a family member who used to paint, they might have one of these laying around. This is a traditional palette knife used for mixing smaller portions of oil paint, cleaning up your palette. This will work just as fine. If you have this laying around, grab it and we can use it. Now I know what you're thinking. Kenny, what if I don't have a palette knife at all? Well, just grab a filbert or fan brush. In this case, I'm going to use the No. 6 fan brush. Just because I like it better and I use it all the time. And trust me, you'll be able to make mountains just as beautiful with this thing.
Come on, don't bullshit me.
Now I've done tutorials so far on painting trees, bushes, clouds, how to apply liquid white, which is what we'll be using today. And I even did a video on how to apply liquid clear. And when I did that video, this is what we came out with.
You suck!
But I want to take this time right now to show you the version of a friend of mine's I made here on YouTube. Miss Jennifer Beebe. This is her work, her version of following along with my how to apply liquid clear tutorial.
Wow.
And I not only want to say what a great job she did following along, but I even think her version is better than mine. And that's what I'm trying to show you guys. You don't necessarily have to copy what I'm doing. These tutorials are just to help you if you're having difficulty with something. And I set you out, you guys do whatever you want on your own.
Well, that makes sense.
Okay, you guys, are you ready? Now for all the beginners out there, don't worry. I'll be going slow and taking my time so everybody can keep up.
You fall behind and you're on your own.
Let's set in first a nice blue sky so these mountains actually have something to peek up through. And, we're not just painting on a plain white canvas. So I'll drag out a little bit, just a little bit of Phthalo Blue. I'm using a 12 by 16 canvas today, so you're really not going to need much. Phthalo Blue is very strong, and we don't want to just make the sky one big solid blue. We want it to mix with that liquid white, which it's doing right now. You can see I'm using my X strokes, but if you want to, you don't have to leave the canvas like I am. You can stay there if you want, whatever's easiest, whatever's more fun for you. I like doing this. And since we're just going to be painting nothing but mountains today, I'll bring that sky literally almost all the way down here maybe. Okay. I don't even think I'm going to go back into more Phthalo Blue. I'm just going to keep that what little paint I had on the brush and work with what I got. A little goes a long way, especially when you're using smaller canvases. Okay. And now, I'm just going to step aside, wipe this brush on a paper towel. I suggest you guys do the same. What I like to do is just have it folded like that so it doesn't seep through and get paint all over my hand. And just get all the excess off. You can even tap it in there, just like you would on your palette. And let's go over and get rid of all these harsh brush strokes that we made. Make everything look much softer. And there we are. Now, I would suggest grabbing another paper towel and getting the excess off, because we're going to need a fairly clean, dry brush, 2-inch brush again later. Now, when we paint, we usually start with what's furthest away first and work our way forward. Now, we're going to use only one mountain base color, but keep in mind, when things are furthest away, they're usually lighter in color and value. As they get closer, they're more vibrant, more pure in color. So we need to make 3 different versions of one value, one mountain color value. So that's why we have the Phthalo Blue, and I'm going to put that right here. Alizarin Crimson, right there, and Dyke Brown, all your dark colors. So for those of you who have the palette knife, this is a great way to get comfortable with it. Okay, it's a very, very dark color. Maybe I'll add just a little bit more Dyke Brown, a little bit more Alizarin Crimson. I feel like it's a little too blue. Because like I said, that color is probably one of the, if not the strongest color you'll encounter in this technique. And now, since we have our one solid mountain base color, let's take a version of that color, put it right here, a little bit more, and right there. So we have 3 different piles, 1, 2, 3. And let's mix up a little bit of titanium white into the middle color. There we go, yeah, that's perfect. That is what I'm looking for. And that'll be good enough for now. Can mix that in a bit later. And for this one will be the lightest value. So we'll use this color, this pile over here, as the first pair of mountains we're going to make. So let's get a lot more titanium white. I think proportionally, you might need more titanium white than solid dark color here. It definitely has to be lighter than the middle value, and it will certainly be lighter than the third value there. Okay. And a lot of mixing will be going on in this process, so bear with me. I'll try to do this as fast as I can.
3 hours later.
Now let's grab that number 6 fan brush and go into that light color. And this is for all of you out there without the palette knives. Get a lot of paint loaded. Maybe I'll just add a dash of Alizarin Crimson. Just a little bit more. There we go. Go up here and decide where you want to put your mountain. And literally, this is your painting. You do whatever you want. Just make sure you plan to leave room for all the bigger mountains that are closer to you. So that's why I'm going to start over here. I'm just going to hold my brush like this and make a peak like that. Just shape it out. There we go. Put one like that. And use the shape of the brush. You see how I'm sort of holding it vertically? Yeah. Just like that. And go slide it down. Yep. And if you have a filbert brush, you can do the same thing. This is a bit more of a a drawing than painting right now, because we got to shape these things out. Okay, I'm gonna wipe all this excess paint off. One moment. And just blend the bottom out. That's okay. Remember, this is our furthest mountain. And now, I think, I just want to fix this. Might be time to condition this fan brush after this painting. So let's go make this a tad lighter, like going into some titanium white. You're gonna need a lot of titanium white for this painting. Okay. And I'll show you how we do the highlights. It's pretty much just going over what you already did. See, a lot of paint there, and just kind of lightly, and you know, not a firm touch like you did before, and just match it. And yeah, you can wiggle and move the brush like that. And go up on this peak. And that one only has a tiny bit. And yeah, there we are.
That was easy.
Now we can take that 2-inch brush, which hopefully you cleaned, whether with paper towel or solvent, whatever, as long as it's clean and dry. Just tap out the bottom here and follow the angles. I'll go into more detail about that with the other mountains, because this one's far away and it kind of doesn't really matter. I'm just tapping. I'll wipe off some excess again and lift and follow the angles. So you see how these white highlights are going down like that? Even if you want to turn the brush vertically like this and hold it like that, you get a bit more of an accurate sweep. So that just blends it right down into the mist. And I'm going this way now, following that. And this is what we're going to be doing with all our mountains. So you can kind of think of it as a rule. And if you noticed, I really only put the white shiny highlights here and not the shadows, because it's just too far away. You wouldn't see it. But look how quick we made that. I mean, with the fan brush, it's got to be the easiest way to make mountains in your paintings. And if you wanted it to look closer and not far away, just use one of these two values. Probably the darkest one. If you want it as your only one main mountain, it'd be great just as fine.
I get it. I don't get it.
But let's take things up a notch with the classic palette knife. You don't see a lot of wet-on-wet painters use this one. They use the No. 10 because it's the most fun. But if you don't have that, let me show you how to load it, because it's a little different and how we're going to use it. So this is the middle base color we'll use. And we flatten it out as much as we can, and then we turn it over. And if you have paint on the bottom like that, that's okay too. Let me get a little closer, make sure you guys can see. And I'm just gonna scrape a little bit like that. If you have those two lines on your palette, that's exactly what you want. And you kind of have this roll of paint. If I could turn it. Yeah, there you go. That's a better look at it. Now you're going to take that roll and hold it. Use the shape of the palette knife to your advantage and decide where you want these mountains. So maybe it'll overlap this. That's fine. And now, see, I'm just keeping the knife flat like that. And then I'll turn it this way and just scrape. I'm scraping quite hard. You can hear that on the canvas. If we get a little closer, load more paint the same way. We can make maybe another peak right here. And that just goes all the way down like that. See how I'm turning the knife a little at an angle to try to scrape it off? I'm using that edge. Scrape as much off as you can. Now wipe down your 2-inch brush, make sure it's good and dry. A little bit of white there, but that's okay. We're not going to be using that part. And I want you guys to try and line up the top of the bristles as best as you can with the peaks you made. Now, you can go like this if you want and drag it down like that, but I find it more accurate and just to be safe to line it up with those peaks, and then you can turn the brush upwards and firmly drag that color down. Okay, let's go up to this top peak and do the same. So I'm gonna line that brush up best as I can and drag it down. You don't have to go slow. I'm just doing that to show you guys. You can go fast if you want. I'll go this way for this peak. This one peak, it's gonna go over there. But I did like how this was going down like that. And see, you can change it. You can change how you want this to look. And since I'm going on the left side here on this peak, I'm gonna drag it down to the left. You decide where these peaks split as they go down. You decide how far they go down too. And you just blend the bottom out. Now, if I wanted to, you can kind of see where all these slopes are going and all these angles. And if I wanted to, before I start adding the highlights, I can change it. For example, look here. That just goes down like that. And maybe the left one comes a little closer. You can see that, right? So you can just keep playing with that until you're satisfied. And you're like, you know what? That's where I'm going to put my peaks. Those are the angles I'm going to have on my mountain. See, I'm changing my mind again. There we are. All right, you guys, let's make some snowy highlights for this one. Now, it's not going to be the brightest highlights, but it's not going to be the, I don't know, the most faint highlights like that. We need to make a different value here. So I grabbed a little bit of the titanium white here and mixed it right there. So this way, when we make the highlights for our next set of mountains, it'll look closer. So what did we say to do? Just drag it out like that. I'm going to hold the palette knife like this, right? And if we have paint on the back of the knife like that, that's the right thing to do. And grab just a little bit of a roll of paint. It's going to look very tiny. Not sure if you can see it. But hold that roll, match that knife to that peak like that, and just touch and begin dragging the knife down. Once you feel that paint hit the canvas, just kind of wiggle that knife like that, and there you are. So let's load up again. It's very hard to see, but since I'm a bit closer, you see that to the left? That's that roll you want. You're going to try to touch it again, just like that. Now the question is, how much pressure do we use, if any, with the traditional palette knife? Well, the truth is, it doesn't really matter. Unlike the No.10 palette knife, whether you use a soft or firm pressure with this one, well, hold on, let me load more paint up. And let me just tell you, if you see your highlights like that a little marbly, that's okay too, as long as it's mostly bright. So, one second, here we go. And now what do? Yeah, we line that knife up, we angle it with the peak of our mountain that we made, same way we originally made it. Now, I'm going to try with a firm pressure here. I'm trying to go quite hard with the canvas, with the bottom of the palette knife. And you can see it still breaks. And if you get a little of the undercolor there, that's okay too. It's not going to contaminate your white completely. But I'm pressing quite firmly with the palette knife. So this is a good way, I guess, to use the traditional palette knife if you're still having trouble with the number 10. You can just use this one for now. And as I load up, I'll show you what happens with a gentle pressure. So I'm not going anywhere near as hard with this one. I'm going quite soft, quite quick. And I still get those breaks. So that's the funny thing about, or I should say the biggest difference between this palette knife and the number 10. Load it up again. Drag it out. Scrape off. Here we are. And now already you can begin to see how this mountain has pushed that one even further back. And because we use such light colors, it looks very far away.
Oh my God, that makes so much sense.
And like I said, this palette knife is just as good. You'll get the same effects, but it does take a little bit longer.
6 hours later.
Now, when you get to certain angles, you can, if you want, after you load it up, turn your knife a different way, like that, because I want it to go at an angle, and we're getting to an awkward part here where we're going to be putting highlights on where there's no base color. So I'm just going to turn the knife like this, and there we are. See? And maybe one final touch of light highlight will be at the very tip here. And you decide how far it goes down, whatever. There you are. So for some shadows, since it is closer, we can have that. Let's add a little bit touch of the Phthalo Blue. Tiny bit more. Be very careful with the Phthalo Blue. Just want that to look like a nice, cool color. And even though this works, I like the number 10 palette knife a lot better, which we'll get to next, because it makes, you can hardly hear this one on the palette, and I love the noise the number 10 makes. Okay, so drag it out. There we are. And this little part here, we line it up inside, and there we are. And angle the knife. See how I'm turning it? Angle it if you need to. Just go all the way down. And I'll actually make that shadow color a tiny bit stronger so you guys can see it on camera. Yeah, there you go. See how I'm angling the knife? There we are. Now, over here too, right? You already know how to load it up, so grab it. And that's what's good about this knife. One advantage that this one has over the number 10 is you can sneak in there and get those little spots. Now I'm going to angle the knife so I don't mess up the bright highlights I already made. And there we are. You can just turn that knife any way you want to make those shadows. So Now another thing you can do here, since we still have enough paint to do it, is add some little shadows here and there. Just touch. Makes more details in these little ridges if you want. And I'm just touching. Now clean off this palette knife completely. Paper towel comes right off. And if you go up here, we can just fix this and make it look a little neater. With the clean knife, I'm just gonna touch very gently what I made, like that. There we are, angle the knife. Now once again, take that clean 2-inch brush and lightly tap the bottom. Mist out the mountain. You decide how far you want that mist to go up. I'll turn the brush, use the other side since this side's dirty, or you can wipe it off real quick on paper towel and keep to those angles. Wipe it off because that color is blue and strong. I'll start on the lighter side first. And so when we went down with those angles that we created, we're doing the same thing, just going upwards. And you don't know where that mountain ends on the bottom. It just disappears because it's just so high up in the sky. Down here, just sweep up a bit, blend it till it goes away. It looks very, very neat. And that mountain is higher than Snoop Dogg on New Year's Eve. All right, you guys, now it's time to up the difficulty level once again using the No. 10 palette knife. I know you've all been waiting for it.
Yes! Yes!
But before we continue, I do have to warn you guys, especially those of you youngsters out there, to be very careful with this thing because after all, at the end of the day, it's still a knife. And let's just say the last student I taught didn't end up very well. Now remember that third value we had? Well, actually it was the main value we had and we just lightened it up. That's the one we're going to use for this one. So what we do with the knife is when we hold it, we drag paint out as much as we can like that. That's what it looks like from the front. Now I'll go to the side. Let's scoop up this paint actually so I can do it again and just put it there. Just want to get really close so you guys can see. Against your palette, you see how I'm holding the knife? All 5 of my fingers. And I'll actually, in a firm way, and you see that knife bending? That's a good thing. That means you're dragging it out as flat as you can, and that's what you want. That's what I mean when I say drag your paint out as flat as you can. See that knife bend? It is flexible. It's okay. Like that. That's what you want. Now, once you drag out and flatten that paint, you can load that roll of paint on the top edge of your knife in a few ways. You can just scoop it up like that, but that's kind of like not the careful way. The traditional way to do it, let's flatten this out again, as flat as we can get it. And you can go towards the top and slide down across like that. And you'll get a nice roll of paint on the edge. Now, you're not going to be able to see it because it's a dark color, but I will say my favorite way to do it, let's just try it out again, is to turn the knife over like this. Let's just wipe the knife off for 1 second so we can see. And then at an angle, just scrape it up. And there it is, your roll of paint. right on the top edge of that knife. Now, wherever you pick where this next mountain is going to go, should go right in front. Not completely. We don't want to destroy this one, but it's going to look darker because we're using the darkest color. Maybe the top peak will go right up here. And when I place that knife onto the canvas, I'm trying to push it in. Just trying to push it into the canvas.
Push it real good.
And as I drag it where I want the next peak and however many peaks I want, I'm firmly pushing in. And I'll use what paint is already up there before I load again. And notice when we do this, we're just worried about the top peaks. We're not worried about, the body of the rest of the mountain or anything. We're just worried about the top. And let's drag this down. Let's get a little bit more paint, drag it out. Get our roll the way I like to do it. And maybe it comes down all the way over here. If it mixes with that color, it's okay because we're using a darker color. And you might have to wipe your knife off. That's fine. See, I'm not really going back into any more paint because I'm just worried about these top edges. Now, if you don't like how this is coming out, all you have to do is take a roll of paint and fix your peaks. Maybe you want this one a little bit higher. And there you are. And this peak seems far away from that one. Maybe you want another one right here. Well, just go in and add it. And now that we've put the tops in, we wipe our knife off. And now we scrape very hard against that canvas. All the way down, because this is the biggest mountain we're going to have yet. Now, why do we do this? Well, you had all this paint, all these layers of paint. Those highlights that we need to glide on aren't going to stick very well. The canvas is just too wet. And that's another reason why we're going to grab our 2-inch brush once again. Now, like I said before, you line it up, right? And just follow that angle down. There we are. This is really, really fun. Notice how I split every pyramid, every triangle. Now, if you happen to make a mistake and pass your peak that you made, all you do is take the knife and make it bigger. And these drag marks kind of make a guide for you where to put your highlights. Now, this is the part that people find most difficult, adding highlights with the number 10. And I have to tell you, I've shared my own struggles with it, and there was a time when I thought I was never going to do it. My mountains looked like I was just icing a cake, but you know what? Once I finally got it, I just knew forever, and I just needed a little practice. And once I got it right the first time, I just realized it's one of those things that are so easy, it's difficult because you just don't know. So we know how to load our knife, right? Like that. Now I'm going to go over here and add just a touch of black. That's why I have it. Just to gray it down. Just to gray down that white. And even though I've grayed it a little, it'll still be the lightest highlights that we have compared to these. So we drag it down flat, and I'll show you again a little closer. Drag that paint like this. And this is how I load, so we can actually see that roll of paint like that. Now we have our roll of paint on the knife, but how do we hold the knife when we go up to the canvas, which is very important? Well, as you can see, my pinky is down on the handle. Now, some people will even hold the knife just like this. And the reason for that is you want the lightest touch possible onto the canvas. But I hold it with 3 fingers, and my ring finger is actually not even holding the knife. It's more like it's resting, and that's the way I like to do it. And if you saw me hold the knife before between dragging out and mixing the color, you notice I had my index finger on the metal part here. That we don't want to do for this part. We always want to make sure that our index finger is resting here and not even really putting any pressure. So if I put my finger up here, that's wrong, because you see how the knife is already doing that? It's going to add too much pressure up to the canvas, and that's what we don't want. Okay, we know how to hold the knife. You matched up with those peaks, and just as soon as you feel that roll of paint touch the canvas, that's it. You might even feel it stick a little. That's totally the right feeling to have. And there we are.
What?
Now I'll do it again, this time even slower than a nudist trying to climb a barbed wire fence. Drag it out. Get our roll. And let's go up to this peak right here, right? And notice how I'm holding the knife. I line it up. And as soon as I feel that roll of paint touch the canvas, that's all I want. And I'm trying to go slow for you guys. But it actually helps, once you get this down, to do it fast.
Wow!
Now it's worth mentioning, I am wiping the excess paint off the knife with a paper towel before I go into my next roll. I suggest you do the same. Drag out again. Hold the knife at that angle there. And speaking of angles, I'm also not just holding the palette knife flat up to the canvas. You'll get paint all over your hands and the handle of that. I'm kind of going at an angle like this. Watch. I'm actually holding the palette knife wrong. Hold on. Sweaty hands slipped out. Now from this side, maybe you can see the angle I was talking about. See? I'm holding it like that and not like this and not completely like that. So let's try it. And oh, this is a good break. There we go. Because these mountains are so big, we're actually losing paint on the bottom a little faster than we need to. So I'm just gonna add this down here. Also, when I say no pressure, what I mean is, no pressure doing it either. There should be no type of pressure when you make art. It doesn't work that way. You gotta paint to express, not to impress. See? What you can do too is if you're feeling brave enough, you can wiggle that knife a little bit. So, but still gentle. See? Not only does it work, but it might even have a better effect. Now, here's what's really cool. We can go here and just make another peak, like bring this over a little. And mountain paintings, when you do them with the palette knife, will have a lot of texture to them, texture when they dry up. What word did I say? I don't know, I'm getting tongue-tied. Okay, now I think it's time to add some shadow colors, so let's mix up a value for that. And maybe we'll use some of this. It's got to be a little bit stronger. Remember, add little by little. It's very hard to take away. All right. So we drag out our shadow color with our roll of paint, and we just go the opposite way. Same thing, just going in the opposite direction. Wipe off the knife, drag out again, get our roll. And this is really tiny, so this will be easy. And if you have a number 5 palette knife, which is about half the size of this one, it helps getting in those little areas like that. Go up here. And just see, I adjust my knife by turning it to match up those peaks and shadows. And you have to go up here too, don't we? And now we drag this down over here, right? Well, every peak is going to have a shadow. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense. And there we are.
Nice.
Now you can still change this. You can still change this. I think in my excitement to show you guys, I missed this peak right here. You can keep it in the shadow if you want to, but you can just go over it with the white and you will imply that it's catching some sun. See? If you still wanted that shadow color to go over there, if you thought that made more sense, then just go over it. See? Now, just like we did with this mountain, if you have some shadow color left, you can go here and there and here, and just touch little places. And that adds a lot more detail and character to your mountains. There we are. And once again, take a clean, dry brush, mist out the bottom. Not much over here, that's okay. It makes the job easier. Excess paint, you can get it off. Yeah. Second time that happened, but luckily the cat wasn't there again.
You dumbass.
If you guys still have any questions or if something wasn't clear to you, let me know. Now I want to talk about one of the most common problems too, as to why your paint is not sticking the way it does and not breaking. One of the results could be too much liquid white. Remember, I did a tutorial on liquid white, so click on the upper right hand to show you the proper way to do that, just to make sure you're doing it right if this doesn't work out for you. Otherwise, all you just need is a little bit of practice. And wow, you know, a landscape with just nothing but mountains. I love it.
Oh my god! Wow!
In fact, I think I'll just make one more for you guys on the bottom here. Just, I don't know where this could be on Earth where we would have so many mountains this big, but let's go for it. I still have some paint left. Let's mix up more of our base color. We might need a darker value anyway, so we can add some black. I didn't intend to use it in the mountain base color. I only intended to gray down the white a little bit. And this is so fun to do really fast. Just mixing and turning over. I just love that sound. That's why I think I'll always use this palette knife. Okay. I don't know. Let's just go for it. Maybe right over here. Maybe it's speed mountain time. I don't know. I just want to show you how fun this can be once you have it down. Let's reestablish this. Again, scraping very hard, just scraping that in. And you'll notice when I do my full-length landscapes, I describe this part when I make a mountain as the blueprint part of the mountain. We're just planning it out. See, I didn't like how that came out, so I fixed it. Clean 2-inch brush once again. Oh, this one might be my favorite. See what I mean when things might actually come out better when you do them fast and you just don't think about it? Okay, let's review what we've done, right? We drag out the titanium white, drag out our roll of paint, and very quickly but gently, we just, but with no pressure. There we are. And up here too, of course. And getting into a bit of an angle here. So I'll just start moving my knife around like that. And we're sort of to a part here where we can even just turn the knife like this and go down. Yeah. There we are. Now for this peek, I'm going to show you something. The knife actually has two blades. One that goes this way and the tiny end right there. You can load it up the same way. So I'll just, I don't know how I'm going to turn my knife. I usually don't do it like this, but I'm just trying to show you that you can load such a tiny roll like that. Otherwise, I would load it up just like that, turn it over. So just want to show you that it's there. You load it up the same way and you come up here and just very gentle. And you can do that getting into tiny spots. Okay, shadow color now, right? So let's get that shadow color, put it right over here. Turn the knife and work our way down. Follow that angle. And this peak too. Little touches of shadow here and there. Turn the knife over, get a little shadow color on that top little part of the knife. Just work it in wherever you want. If you want, you don't even have to do it. Clean 2-inch brush once again. Very gently on the bottom like that. Follow the angles. And we create the mist. Get a little excess off. Very gently lift up. Very gently. Wow.
Nice. Very nice.
Well, folks, who thought you could have painted a landscape with just nothing but mountains? I don't think I've seen mountains that big since that Christina Hendricks movie. I just want you all to know, if you still haven't gotten the hang of it yet, that's the part of the journey of painting. Remember, practice, 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 practice.
Early the next morning.
And practice. That is the key. Remember, if at first you don't succeed, be happy you didn't go skydiving. So that's it, guys. If you made it through this tutorial, congratulations. I would love to see how you did. Send me pictures of your work, please. If you want feedback, you want more advice, any questions you have, please feel free to ask. But join me for my next tutorial where I show you how to get white paint off of a cat. So that's it, guys. I want to wish you all a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year from the bottom of my heart. Let's enter 2022 so we can all paint together, keeping our dreams high and our pompadours in the sky.